When an erection doesn't happen, or when it fluctuates during intimacy, the immediate instinct is often to feel a wave of shame, frustration, or panic. We think something is completely broken. But an erection is actually a finely tuned plumbing system that requires very specific biological and psychological conditions to work. Today, we are breaking down the exact mechanics of how an erection happens using a simple tap and balloon analogy and exploring what gets in the way of an erection and what to do about it. Hello and welcome to Ask a Sex Therapist, a space where we explore sexuality, intimacy, relationships, and sexual well-being with curiosity, compassion, and evidence-based understanding. I'm Justine Gilliland, a sex therapist and counselor, and in today's episode, we're exploring the question, how do erections work, and why you might lose hardness and how to fix it. To understand how an erection happens, I want you to imagine a tap with a balloon attached to it. The balloon represents the corpora cavernosa, which are the internal chambers of the penis. At first, this may sound simple, but listen on and you will realize it is not so simple. When this process runs smoothly, an erection happens seamlessly. But when this process encounters challenges, that is where we see moments of erectile difficulty, or if those challenges are sustained, erectile dysfunction. First, the tap itself needs to be turned on to get water flowing. In our bodies, that water is blood, and turning on the tap is the process of sexual arousal. Through both mental and physical stimulation, your brain and nervous system send signals to get the blood flowing in the first place. Right at the tap, two chemical messengers work as a team. A chemical called vasoactive intestinal peptide, or VIP, acts directly on the tap itself by widening the supply pipes so blood can rush in at high pressure. At the exact same time, the nerves release nitric oxide, or NO, which stimulates the production of a messenger called cGMP to prepare the balloon to be filled. Now think about the balloon itself. In its resting state, the rubber of that balloon, which is the smooth muscle of the penis, is inflexible and rigid, only allowing a tiny trickle of water in for basic circulation. For an erection to work, the rubber needs to become stretchy and relaxed to accommodate the rush of high-pressure water. This is exactly what cGMP does. It causes the rubber in the balloon to relax, allowing the rushing blood to successfully fill and expand it. But here is where it gets a bit tricky. Imagine this balloon also has tiny holes at the bottom that constantly drain the water out. These are your drainage veins. If water is filling the balloon but leaking right back out, you can't build pressure. You need a mechanism to plug those drain holes to create firmness. The solution? The balloon is encased in a firm leather sheath, a fibrous membrane called the tunica albuginea. When arousal is high and blood rushes into the balloon, the chambers expand so quickly that they push tightly against that outer leather sheath, automatically squeezing and plugging its own escape valves closed. This traps the pressure inside and creates firmness. Finally, the balloon needs to be tightly fitted to the base of the tap so nothing leaks backward. To create that tight seal, the pelvic floor muscles at the base of the penis contract to compress the base, maximizing hardness and creating extra pressure. In everyday functioning, when you aren't engaging in sexual activity, the tap is just on a constant, healthy trickle and the drains are left open, allowing blood to circulate naturally to maintain tissue health. So why do problems with erections occur? First, if you don't turn on the tap of arousal at high pressure, the rest of the plumbing simply cannot activate. If arousal is not present, both mentally and physically, the balloon will not fill. This is because when there is no arousal, the chemical team of VIP and NO won't be released to widen the arteries and relax the muscles. Other times, the tap might be wide open mentally, but there are physical blockages or rusting in the piping. This happens due to underlying health conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, or chronic cardiovascular issues. These conditions physically restrict the amount of blood able to flow into the chambers, even when mental desire is very high. When that happens, CGMP tries to relax the smooth muscle, but because the water is slow, the balloon fills up too gradually. This means the drains never get fully plugged by the balloon's pressure against that outer sleeve, and the blood leaks out. At the very same time, an enzyme called PDE5 is naturally at work in your body, breaking down CGMP to return the penis to a resting state. If the blood flow is slow and your CGMP is being broken down, the balloon quickly returns to its rigid, inflexible state and the erection fades. Because difficulties with erections are frequently a symptom of an underlying biological issue, it is absolutely essential to speak with a doctor or GP about your concerns. In the case of underlying health issues, treating the root medical cause can have a direct, positive effect on restoring your erectile function. This brings us to a very common question. How do medications like Viagra or Cialis actually help? Medically known as PDE5 inhibitors, these medications temporarily paralyze the PDE5 enzyme that breaks down CGMP. When the blood flow is moving slowly due to damaged or blocked pipes, blocking that enzyme preserves whatever CGMP your body naturally makes. This gives the balloon more time to sustain its flexibility, allowing the slow-moving blood to eventually fill it successfully. But it is vital to note a major misconception. PDE5 inhibitors do not create arousal. They do not turn on the tap. They only work if arousal is already present and the tap is releasing VIP and NO. They do not create spontaneous erections out of nowhere. For these medications to work, arousal must still be activated through both mental and physical stimulation. And of course, you should only ever take these medications when explicitly prescribed by a doctor. While medications can beautifully support the biological side of the plumbing, they do not address the psychological and relational factors that dictate whether the tap turns on in the first place. This is exactly where sex therapy comes in. In my practice, I support individuals and couples to understand how anxiety, pressure, and relationship dynamics influence erectile function. Even when there is a clear medical component, experiencing erectile difficulty just 1 or 2 times can quickly trigger performance anxiety. You begin spectatoring, standing outside your own body, watching and worrying about whether the erection will stay. This anxiety acts like an immediate psychological block that turns the tap completely off. In sex therapy, we focus on reducing performance pressure and bedroom anxiety, rebuilding trust and confidence in your body's natural responses, shifting away from goal-oriented, penetration-focused sex and moving toward pleasure-focused intimacy, improving sexual communication so you can talk openly about what feels good, supporting couples to step out of isolation and approach this challenge as a supportive sexual team. When we address the biological, psychological, and relational layers together, erectile function is much more likely to improve in a sustainable, lasting way. My final thoughts today are these. Erections are not just a mechanical switch. They are the result of a finely balanced conversation between your body, your brain, and the environment you are in. The tap and balloon simply needs the right conditions to fill: sufficient blood flow, relaxed muscle tissue, deep emotional or physical arousal, and minimal interference from performance anxiety. When something disrupts this process, it does not mean you are broken. It often just means one part of the system needs a little bit of support. By understanding how your body actually functions, we can take away the mystery and the heavy pressure, allowing the focus to shift back to creating connection and enjoying raw sensation rather than forcing an outcome. Thank you for listening to Ask a Sex Therapist. This podcast is a space where I'll be exploring common questions and themes that arise in my work around sexuality, intimacy, relationships, and sexual well-being. Topics that many people quietly struggle with, but rarely talk about openly. If you'd like to learn more, explore related blogs, or inquire about online sex therapy across Australia, you can visit my website at wellbeingcounsellor.com.au. You can also subscribe for future conversations about sexuality, intimacy, relationships, and emotional well-being.